Anybody who watches this show knows I'd love nothing more than if America had a viable third party. The Republicans have been taken over by extremists, and leading Democrats have become far too liberal. A political perspective that represents the vast middle, moderate, centrist Americans is something I know so many of us would love to embrace. But it's a lot harder than it seems. For example, I was initially thrilled to come across a recent column in the New York Times written by Democratic Representative Tom Milanowski from New Jersey. The opinion piece was titled, quote, "A viable third party is coming, and it's starting with the New Jersey lawsuit." He explained that while he won the Democratic Party, he also accepted the nomination of a new moderate party that was largely formed by his state's Republicans, who were, quote, fed up with the extremism of a party led by Donald Trump. Now, this sort of moderate party sounds like a party for the rest of us. Sounds great. But then you dig in. It starts to sound a little more shaky. Milanowski explained something called fusion voting, in which two parties fuse to form a coalition in support of the same candidate, which already happens in some states like New York. The article explains that fusion voting would create, quote, an alliance between Democrats of all stripes, independents, and moderate Republicans, hoping to win an election while pursuing a reform to the election laws that could empower swing voters to save our democracy from toxic polarization. All sounds good. There's currently a lawsuit in New Jersey arguing to allow so-called fusion voting in the state. But first of all, it's hardly a phrase that's understandable or relatable. I'm not sure I even know exactly what it means, and it's not clear to me at all that allowing candidates to be listed as representing multiple parties like Republican and conservative or Democrat and working party is going to change the dynamic at all. It hasn't done so in New York. But joining me to tell me why I'm all wrong and to tell me why the idea of a third party makes an enormous amount of sense is Richard Wolff, whose kitchen table was where the idea of the moderate party movement started. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so look, I love the idea, but every time someone suggests some third party, from Teddy Roosevelt to Ross Perot, you name it, they have had major problems, major obstacles, and this just really just seems in the end like a strategy in the hope that, oh, you can vote for more than one party. Is this really practical?
Let me give you an example. We have two candidates running for office.
Yeah.
Let's say Congress.
Okay.
We have a Republican who's far right.
Yep.
We have a Democrat who's more moderate. I'm a Republican. I don't want to vote for the Republican candidate. Too far right, doesn't represent my values. In fact, I abhor some of his positions. Mm-hmm. I'd really like to vote for the moderate Democrat. I don't want to support the Democratic Party. I actually abhor some of their positions.
Right.
I now have three choices under current law in New Jersey. One, vote for the Republican. I don't want to do that.
Right.
Two, vote for the Democrat. I really like the Democratic candidate. I don't want to support that party. Three, don't vote at all. My concern is the pool is choosing three. The moderate pool is choosing alternative three. Our goal is to give a fourth alternative, which is the moderate Democrat, through fusion voting, can run as both the candidate of the Democratic Party and the moderate party. Now I have a fourth choice. I can go into the voting booth and vote for this candidate.
Under the moderate.
Under the moderate party.
But the moderate parties, it's never, I mean, I shouldn't say never. I hope you do great. But I don't believe it's going to happen. I don't believe you're going to get anywhere with it. Every time someone starts one of these third parties, particularly these, we're going to start a third party moderates, I say, great. They always fail. Why are you going to be any different?
Very persistent.
I mean, come on. As
Look,
a practical
it's also
matter.
timing. I believe that the vast majority of my fellow Republicans no longer feel like the Republican Party represents their values.
And a lot of Democrats feel the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there is now this large pool of homeless voters.
Yes.
This is the time to create a home.
It is. It's the time.
Right.
It's always the time. But
it's not always the time.
But it doesn't happen.
The polarization is greater now than any time in my lifetime.
It is. It is.
This is the time, Dan.
It is the time. It is the time. And I will support, the reason I'm having you on, and I hope I'm emphasizing this, is I love the idea. I want you to work, but I'm trying to figure out how it's going to, I know that there are the people there, right? But as a practical matter, the parties in this country are so empowered already. And they're so dug in, and not having that influence. It's the reason even a guy like Ross Perot, right, when he came out and had all this money, couldn't pull it off, right? Couldn't start the new party. How can, as a practical matter, can you make it happen today?
Because Ross Perot was running as a third-party candidate.
Yeah.
We're not looking to do that. Yeah. We're looking to fuse with the party that's running the conservative candidate. Therefore, our candidate doesn't have to get a majority of the votes under the moderate party.
Right. So it's sort of like it's just a way to sort of vote for the candidate you want to vote for anyway, but you don't have to say you're voting Democrat.
It also does another thing, which I think is equally important. Yeah. It sends a message to both parties. Here's a large pool of voters who are pulling the moderate lever. If your candidate deviates, we take our support somewhere else.
Well, look, I'm rooting for you. I'm hoping it works. I'm not convinced, but I'm going to be following it, and I'm going to be rooting for you.
Longest journey starts with the first step.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.